There have been videos since October 7th by IDF soldiers mocking and celebrating the destruction of Gaza.
We can see that it's impossible to return Gaza to what it was because 70% of it has been destroyed, because over 33,000 people have been killed, 14,000 of whom are children. So the incitement against the people of Gaza has translated, in fact, into concrete actions. So there is a direct link. I mean, it cannot be missed.
The IDF told the BBC that it handles videos posted by soldiers with command and disciplinary measures, and that in some of the examined cases, it is concluded that the expression or behavior of the soldiers in the footage is inappropriate. During the ICJ hearing in January, South Africa claimed
Israel's political leaders, military commanders, and persons holding official positions have systematically and in explicit terms declared their genocidal intent. And these statements are then repeated by soldiers on the ground in Gaza.
And gave this example.
זכור את אשר עשה לך עמלק נצטווינו. אנו זוכרים ואנו נלחמים.
This speech was addressing soldiers before the ground offensive in Gaza. Amalek comes from a biblical story where Israelites are ambushed by the Amalek people and God commands their destruction, women and children included. The war against Amalek is described as a mitzvah war under Judaism. It includes defending Jewish life and sovereignty. It is a war commanded by God, and it's obligatory to fight.
I think Netanyahu's reference to Amalek in the modern context of this war was highly problematic because it was in a way kind of dog whistling. In a way it was using a term that's vague and could be understood in different ways in order to rally support, especially among the religious camp.
Prime Minister Netanyahu's office says he was talking about Hamas in connection to Amalek and not Palestinian civilians. To understand the reach of the term Amalek, the BBC investigated online mentions since the start of the war, filtering those to ones associated with Gaza war, and narrowing that down further to mentions just in Hebrew. We collected over 3,600 mentions and found they reached a total of 6 million users. Within a time frame of September 2023 to June 2024, mentions peaked around the time of Mr. Netanyahu's speech, and again at the beginning of December when this video went viral. This religious language and ideology has become part of the messaging within Israel, at least in some communities. In March, an annual conference took place for all Zionist yeshivas, Jewish religious schools in Israel. Rabbi Eliyahu Mali gives a lecture which he describes as being about the treatment of civilians in Gaza. The following clip went viral and has been watched over 1 million times. We have added our own verified translations. One description of a mitzvah war which Rabbi Mali discusses in his lecture includes a commandment that states, "Do not allow a soul to live." Can the mitzvah war be a genocidal war?
Well, I mean, it's a bit anachronistic to talk about genocide when you're referring to texts that are 3,500 years ago. Back then, the term genocide wasn't applied. Taking verbally and literally ancient wars and applying those standards to today could be considered genocide.
The original video posted by the Yeshiva conference was taken down, but by that time, clips have been copied and shared. We contacted Rabbi Eliyahu Mali about his lecture. His legal representative replied, saying that the rabbi's lecture had been grossly misrepresented. in that he made it very clear that anyone following the biblical commandment today would be causing the army and the nation extreme harm. The rabbi said that it is forbidden to harm the civilian population from a child to an old man. We asked for a copy of the full 47-minute video but did not receive a response. We managed to track down the whole lecture from a different source, and Rabbi Mali does conclude the following.
למרות שעיקר הדין הוא לא תחלל כל נשמה, פסק ההלכה ברור בלי פקפוק שצריך לנהוג לפי הפקודות. אז עלינו לדעת שאם אנחנו רוצים לעשות רצון השם, והפקודות אומרות ככה, אנחנו צריכים לעשות רצון השם והפקודות, ולא להרגיש אשמים או לא מוסריים.
However, earlier in the lecture, he discusses the position of Jewish texts in relation to civilian populations and says this.
לדעתי יש הבדל בין אוכלוסייה אזרחית במקומות אחרים לאוכלוסייה אזרחית בעזה. לא כל אנשים שווים. בעזה, על פי כל הערכות של גורמי הביטחון, 95% עד 98% הם רוצים בהשמדתנו. זה רוב שהוא רוב משתק. שכנע לו. אני חוזר להגדרה השנייה.
This unsubstantiated claim was followed by a question from the audience.
אותו דבר. אותו דבר. מה שנקרא למות זכאי, למות חיה. כי אם אתה משאיר אותו, כאילו, אתה לא יכול להתחכם עם התורה. כשהתורה אומרת, לא תחל כל נשמה, לא תחל כל נשמה.
The rabbi also recounts a conversation he had with his son who went to fight after the attacks by Hamas on October 7th.
אתה יוצא עכשיו להילחם, לא רק בגלל שאתה צריך לחזור בשלום, אלא אתה רואה כל מה שזז. הוא אמר לי, אבא, המח"ט שלנו אמר אותו דבר. אמר, תשמע לפקודות של המח"ט.
After examining open source information, the BBC found that Rabbi Mali is the head of a yeshiva that is part of a network receiving funding from the Israeli government, specifically the Ministry of Defense. The yeshivas have a combined total of over 10,000 students who mix Torah study with military service, and many are active in the Israel Defense Forces. Israeli authorities are considering whether to open a criminal investigation into Rabbi Mali's lecture on suspicion of incitement to genocide, violence, and terrorism. Israeli media outlet Haaretz reported that police are recommending the case be dropped and that a final decision will be made by the state prosecutor. The BBC has not been able to verify this. The case application was made by Itai Mak, a lawyer representing the Israeli anti-racism organization Tag Meir, who gave us this update. We are waiting for the state prosecutor to decide if the police should open a criminal investigation into Rabbi Mali. If they don't, it will be a message to the far right in Israel that they can continue the incitement, not only regarding civilians in Gaza, but also in the West Bank and non-Jews inside of Israel.